It's good to see everybody again, and welcome everybody. Welcome back once again to the Emmett Lunch and Learn. And I apologize for the hiatus for the last couple of weeks. We've been very busy, different programs that Emmett has had, with a boys program in Phoenix and a girls program in LA. And I'm happy to be back and to continue our journey together through different ideas that I hope will inspire us as our week progresses. And again, like in all classes, I just encourage everybody to please feel free to participate, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching it later, and you have any comments, please feel free to comment or send me an email at rabbikraft@gmail.com, or just write on the class itself, and I would really appreciate and love everybody's feedback. So today's topic is going to be a very important concept, and something which we speak oftentimes around Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah and Yemin Arayim. But today particularly, I'd like to focus on the last episode in the book of Genesis, the last conversation between Joseph and his brothers, and the topic being forgiveness. And the question I'd like to pose is, can you forgive? Or in the context of our discussion, would it have been possible for Joseph to have forgiven his brothers for what they did to him, for the 22 years of his separation from his family, including 12 years of imprisonment and the years of slavery? So, is forgiveness possible? That's the question. And again, this is a Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur topic, but to bring ourselves back to a core idea, we go back to the Rambam, and the Rambam tells us that, in fact, forgiveness is possible. However, there's a requirement. The requirement is that a person has to ask. So what does the Rambam say? He says like this: in order to seek God's forgiveness, Hashem's forgiveness, and it's the same formula for human beings as well, there are 4 steps. Number 1, a person has to stop doing the sin. Number 2, a person has to have charata, regret. Number 3, a person has to say what's called vidui, means confession. One has to either say to Hashem or say to his friend, Ani chatati lefanecha, which means, I sinned against you. I hurt you. I misjudged you. I spoke words that were too harsh. I'm sorry. There has to be an I subject. There has to be an acknowledgement of what one did wrong. And there has to be a you. I did something to you. And finally, the 4th step is that a person has to commit to a place and say, I'm not doing it again. If those 4 are lined up, aziva sachet, stopping in the sin, charata, regret, vidui, confession, and that commitment Allah haba, that I'm not going to do it going forward, it's possible for God to say, God will say, I forgive you. And it seems that another human being can offer the same forgiveness if one were hurt. And the reason why is because, in essence, the Rambam in some way refers to this as the magic of tshuva, but if we look at it, who are we really? Who is really the real I, in essence? Just as our bodies are changing, are certainly, we're aging as we speak. We're constantly in flux. We're shedding skin cells, and I believe there's a statistic we've shed over a couple of years, an entire body worth of skin cells. Hashem created us in a way that there's the external part of who we are really changes. You look at a baby and a person as a young adult, and you look at them as an older person, you say, wait, are you the same person? I can't see it. It's really an indication that spiritually we're changing as well. If the person we were yesterday is not necessarily the person we are today, if we can examine who we were yesterday and say, I want to be different. I regret that action. I'm ashamed of that action. I hurt you. And I'm sorry, and I want to abandon that, and I want to be a new person. We're capable of looking at someone and saying, yes, you are a new person. I respect that. Because in essence, we are. We're not locked into the old self. And that's what really tshuva is all about. Tshuva really speaks to that fundamental concept that we can recreate ourselves, be reborn, as it were, to use that terminology. And that's the vision that we're really after. It's interesting, by the way, just as Jews, we wake up every morning and we know we're commanded in the mitzvah of what we call Netilat Yadayim. First thing we have to do as we wake up, we're conscious of our hands. And we know that when we sleep, that sleep is a 60th of death, and therefore there's an impurity attached to death, and we want to remove that with water, and we do it in a very specific way. Take a vessel of water and 6 times, alternating each hand. So one reason is, because I have to realize that there's new potential in me. It's almost like I was reborn this morning. At the same time, we have to look at ourselves like, I'm a new creation. And just like a new creation needs to be sanctified, it needs to be sort of go through the water, mayim, chayim, water, which means motion and movement, connection. The idea of saying that I want to now go forward as a new being. We take the water, we wash our hands. And it really speaks to this fundamental principle that I'm not the old person I was yesterday. I'm different. And how much more so when we look at ourselves and we examine ourselves and we reflect and we say, I regret what I did. I hurt you. I'm sorry. I want to abandon that of myself. We're capable of looking at that new person and saying, okay, I accept that. I want to go forward with the new you. That's true, but that's what God does with us. And we are able to do that. Now, there's only one caveat. That is that the other has to come to us and express those words. If those words aren't expressed to us, it doesn't work. That person has to have the boldness and has to have the confidence, or perhaps to say the courage and the commitment to say, I'm willing to look you in the eye and say, I hurt you. I spoke badly. I mistook whatever the verb is. I did it to you, and I do regret it. And I'm a new person. Please go forward with me, that new person. The heart will accept that, but it needs to be done. So I'd like to go now to the last conversation in the book of Genesis, and this is exactly at the end of Parshas Vayechi. And the question I'd like to pose is, and I think it's a fascinating question: did Joseph ever forgive his brothers? And let's examine it, and let's examine it from 2 levels. One level is a fascinating question. But maybe the most important level is, I think it really speaks to what repentance is. And I think it's a very strong lesson and life lesson for us to understand how to repair relationships. So let's take a look. Let's listen in on the last paragraph in the book of in this whole Sefer Genesis, just before we begin the book of Exodus. And there's a conversation. And the conversation is between Joseph and his brothers. The conversation really begins in chapter 50, verse 15. Now we know that Yaakov died, and the brothers, together with Joseph and the dignitaries and a great group of people, many people from Egypt, went to bury Yaakov in Hebron at the Machpelah, where Yaakov is buried together with Leah, as Yitzchak is buried with Rivka there, and Avram with Sarah, and as is Odom and Chava, Adam and Eve. A very beautiful and holy place to visit if we have ever the opportunity to be in Israel, the Hebron, the Machpelah. But it says as follows. It says, V'yirach Yosef kimeis aviyah. They came back, and let me go one line before. V'yashiv Yosef Mitzrayim hu ve'echov. And Yosef returned to Egypt, he and his brothers, and all that went with him to bury his father after the burial of his father. Next verse says, V'yirach Yosef kimeis aviyah. And the brothers of Yosef saw that their father died. V'yomer lo yustamenu Yosef. And they said, now perhaps Joseph is going to hate us. Now, what's troublesome in this particular verse, and what's bothering the commentators, and Rashi especially over here, it says, V'yirach Yosef kimeis aviyah. And the brothers of Joseph saw that their father died. Well, of course they saw their father died. The verse before said, V'yoshev Yosef Mitzrayim hu ve'echov achrei kivuas hafiv. And Joseph and his brothers returned to Egypt after burying their father, his father. And now it says that the brothers of Joseph saw their father died. So of course they saw. What does that mean? So Rashi asks the question, and he says, Ma'u v'yiru, what does it mean they saw? So it can't mean they saw physically, but rather, hikiru v'misisoso epsi Yosef. They saw a change in Joseph. Something changed in Joseph as a result of Yaakov's death. What was that? Shai Reginim Lisod al Shulchanosh Yosef. They were accustomed to eating at Joseph's table. And he would bring them close because the honor of his father. What does that mean? So apparently, when Yaakov was alive, Yosef would have his brothers at his table, and Yaakov would insist that Yosef sit at the head of the table. Why? Because he's the king, the Melech. Now that Yaakov died, apparently Yosef stopped inviting the brothers, and the reason why was that he was concerned. How do I sit them? Reuven is older than me. He's the Bechor from Leah. He's older. Yehuda is destined to be the real king. I can't sit at the table comfortably. I can, as long as my father was alive and insisted, I did it to honor my father. But now that our father is gone, I don't feel right sitting at the head of the table, so I don't know what to do. So he stopped inviting his brothers. When Yaakov died, he stopped inviting them. And what did he say? Lu yistamenu. It must mean the reason he's not inviting us is that he hates us. Shem yistamenu, though, perhaps he hates us. And what happens now? Maybe he's going to take revenge. So the brothers were afraid. And he said, must be that Yosef now is going to try to harm us and is going to take revenge for what we did to him. It really wasn't the case. Really, Yosef was trying to give his brothers an enormous amount of respect and didn't know what to do. How could I sit at the head of the table and I have older brothers and one brother who should really be the king, Yehuda? So just as a side point, I remember hearing once from my Rosh Yeshiva, Henrik Leibovitz, how important it is in order to avoid conflict is to speak out your intention. Tell other people what you are doing and why you're doing it. Don't assume they'll understand your actions, as holy and good as it was. Now, Yosef couldn't imagine that the brothers would suspect him. His love for his brothers was so great. And at the same time, the brothers couldn't imagine Yosef wouldn't hate them because they felt so guilty about what they had done to him. So, had Yosef spelled it out, listen, I would love to invite you, but I don't know what to do with the seating arrangement, so I just, please forgive me, I can't do it right now. How many situations, how many areas, points of conflict can we avoid if we just tell people, listen, someone says, why did you invite me to the party? And you look at the person and say, don't you know why did I invite you? The person says, no. So your perhaps your ex-wife would have been there. I knew you'd be uncomfortable. Maybe you should have told me. Why did you tell? You could hear that dialogue could play out. And this situation, the brothers really thought that lack of the invitation was indication of Yosef's true feelings. So what do the brothers do? The next verse says, V'yitzavu Yosef le'emor, v'chot sivnei lifnei Mosa. The brothers gather around Yosef and they say, your father commanded before he died, saying, quote someone to Yosef, say to Yosef, Anu son pesha ochecho, please forgive the sins of your brothers, chato osam, and their iniquity, ki rag malucho, because evil they did to you. V'ata now sa'ona lepesha avdi elochei avicho. And now, son up, lift up, please, the sin of the servants of the God of your father. The Yepch Yosef Adam and love, and Yosef cried when he heard them say this. Now, it says that the brothers came to Yosef, and he said, your father said before he died that you should forgive us. Rashi points out, by the way, that was a lie. Rashi says, Shinui bedavar, mipnei hashalom. They lied. They lied for peace. Kilot siva Yaakov king. Yaakov never commanded that. Shelo nechshad Yosef be'enov. He never suspected Yosef of harboring any hatred. Why? Because no one ever told Yaakov. In fact, a beautiful, beautiful medrash brought down with Daskeni Bali Tosfos and brought in the Shmir Saloshin by the Chafetz Chaim. It says such a remarkable statement and something which really touches my heart very, very strongly, that in the 17 years that Yaakov was in Mitzrayim, was in Egypt, Yosef never allowed himself to be alone with Yaakov. And the reason why is because he never wanted the brothers to feel uncomfortable. He never wanted the brothers to suspect that maybe he said something. So for all those years Yaakov was in Egypt, Yosef would not let himself be alone with his father. And in essence, what Yosef did is he sacrificed the most important relationship in his life, the relationship with Jacob, his father. How he would have craved his Torah, his insight, his wisdom about running the state, and just the warmth and love of a father. He gave that all up in order to spare the feelings of his brothers, that their father Jacob should never feel in any way angry or embittered or just think badly about the brothers. He sacrificed that relationship. I always think Yosef is called Yosef at Tzaddik, Yosef the righteous, and an appellate only given to him. And I tend to think this might be one of the reasons as well, in addition to his resisting the advances of Ashes Potiphar. But an enormous idea. So they lied. They brothers came to Yosef and they lied for peace. We know there are certain things you're allowed to lie for. As the Gemara in Bava Metzia tells us, that one of them is shalom, peace. That good marriage lessons. If your wife asks you, do you like this dress, and it's non-returnable, it's beautiful. I love it. Lie for peace. To spare someone's feelings is and to create harmony is what God wants. I don't want to become liars, but sometimes the lie for peace is absolutely permissible. So the brothers lied for peace over here. And he said, your father commanded before he died that you should forgive us. And Yosef, and they go on and they say that please bear the sin of your brothers and their sin and the evil they did to you. And Yosef cries. And on the surface, it does look like a very moving, very beautiful conversation. And they're trying to establish some sort of connection with Joseph, and looks like it's more than just the fear, but it's they really want to do something. There's something happening. But let's analyze it just a little closer and see, is the Rambam's prerequisite for forgiveness evoked over here? What do they say to Yosef? They say to Yosef, your father commanded before he died, saying, Yosef, say to Joseph, please forgive the sins of your brothers. In other words, Dad said before he died that you should forgive us. It doesn't sound exactly like we hurt you. We misjudged you. We didn't understand the depth of your greatness and therefore did a horrible thing against you by selling you. And we regret that with every fiber of our being. Dad said before he died that you should forgive us. Where's the I? Where's the verb? Where's the you? For example, if you can imagine two children. If Bobby smacks Susie, and Susie cries, and she runs to her room and slams the door, and Bobby goes downstairs, and Dad is there, and Dad says, why is Susie crying? And Bobby says, we got a fight, I smacked her. So Dad says, listen, Bobby, I want you to go right now up to that room. I want you to apologize. It's okay. He knocks on the door, and she goes, what do you want? And he said, please open the door, I want to tell you something. So she opens the door a little bit, peeks her head out, and Bobby says, Dad says that you should forgive me. Slam. That's not exactly going to do it. What does Bobby really need to say? I was hot-tempered, and I just didn't need to do that. And I hit you, and I'm really sorry. Are you okay? I hurt you. Are you okay? I'm sorry. It doesn't work to say, Dad said that you should forgive me. That's not owning it. That's not a transformation in the human being the other's able to see. So too when the brothers come to Joseph and they say, Dad said that that you should forgive the sins of your brothers. It's not exactly saying we regret what we did to you. Now, it's interesting that Joseph's response to all that is the Yomer Lehem Yosef. And Yosef says back, Al tiro. Don't be afraid. He senses their fear. Ki hatachas elokim ani. I'm under God. Tem chashavtem l'ra, you tried to do evil to me. Elokim chashav l'tova. But God turned it around. That should be good. Laman osek yom hazeh lachiyos amram. That I should be in a position today to sustain and support the nation. Now, it's interesting. Joseph doesn't exactly say, I forgive you.
How are you?
What does he say? He says, guys, don't worry about it. God turned it around that it should be good. If you think about it, you listen to that dialogue, it almost sounds like everybody's hiding. That the brothers are hiding behind Dad, and Yosef is hiding behind the greater Dad, God. But they're not speaking directly to each other. I want to thank Rabbi David Foreman for that very fascinating insight. They're talking, but they're not talking the language that would evoke forgiveness. Dad said that you should forgive us. Don't worry, God turned it around, it's fine. Dad, God, everybody's hiding. So I question whether forgiveness was in fact effective over here. Let's take it one step further. It says, Yosef says back to the brothers, Atem chashavtem alai ra, you tried to do evil to me. Elokim chashav l'tova. But God turned it around that it should be good. That I should sustain a great nation. And now, al tiro, don't be afraid. Anochi achochelesechem. I'll sustain you. V'yastapuchem and your children. V'yenachim osam yadav libam. And He comforts them. And He speaks to their heart. What does it mean He speaks to their heart? Apparently He saw that they're still not completely at peace. So He wants to create that peace. V'yadav libam. So again, back to Rashi. I'm reading now the last statement that Rashi brings of our sages. Basically, the last sentence, the last statement in the entire book of Genesis. So Rashi says like this: what does it mean He spoke to their hearts? Things that the heart would accept. Listen, guys, he says. Before you came to Egypt, people used to mock me, used to make fun of me, that I'm a slave. But through your hands, it's known that I'm really from a freed family. The brothers, this illustrious family, the family of Jacob, each brother, tall and handsome and brilliant. And now I'll kill you? What do people say? The set of brothers comes down and he becomes praised as a result of them. And he says, these are my brothers. And in the end he kills them. Guys, is there such thing as a brother who kills brothers? Guys, it would look bad for me to kill you. It's almost like he has to speak just common sense, the horse sense. I heard once the name of Itzhak Cohen, a Talmud of Slobodka. Just speaking common sense, horse sense. I can't kill you, it will look bad for me. Before you came down, you thought I was a slave. Now through you, they say I'm a part of this illustrious family, and I claim you're my brothers. And then I kill you? Brothers don't kill brothers. It will look bad for me. Guys, don't worry. Now, it's interesting. On the one hand, Joseph is really trying to assuage the feelings of his brothers, that they shouldn't be afraid. But listen to these words that he says to them. And let's read it one more time, and I'm just going to do it with a little bit of a different intonation. And let's see if these words can, in fact, reflect a completely different feeling that Yosef is harboring in his heart. So he speaks to their heart, he says to them, Devar mischal malev, words that their hearts could accept. He says, before you came down to Egypt, people used to make fun of me, Shani Eved, that I'm a slave. But through your hands it's known that I'm a free person. And now I come to kill you? What would people say? A set of young men he sees, he becomes praised through them. And he says, these are my brothers. And then he comes to kill them.
Guys, is there such thing as a brother who would kill his own brothers? Question. For brothers who tried to kill a brother, is this a statement that comforts, or is this a statement that terrifies? It's terrifying. To brothers who threw him in a pit and tried to kill him and sold him to slavery. To ask the question, guys, I can't kill you. Why? Because it will look bad for me. Brothers don't kill brothers. But we intonated a little differently. Say, guys, brothers don't kill brothers. That statement, brothers don't kill brothers, said to brothers who tried to kill a brother, is abject terror. How could Yosef possibly be saying the statement to comfort his brothers when these are brothers who tried to kill him? I'd like to suggest something. Again, I thank Rabbi David Foreman for this insight. The way sometimes midrashim work is they expose both what's happening externally and what's happening internally. And this midrash, I think, speaks to both. On the outside, Yosef is trying to mollify them, to give them hope, to let them know that he doesn't harbor resentment, that he's not going to harm them. And he's really trying to speak words that just, don't be afraid, I can't kill you. It will look bad for me. Don't be so worried. Yet the same words, with a different intonation, are actually words that don't give peace to the brothers, but actually terrify the brothers. The same statement on the outside, Yosef is trying to express words that speak to their heart to comfort them. But the statement really reveals the duality, perhaps, of what's going inside Joseph's own heart, that he's really not resolved. The statement which is trying to offer them encouragement is the same statement which really can also reveal that he's still asking the question, how could brothers kill a brother? Would brothers really want to kill a brother? How could you have done that to me? The same statement can mean both things. I want to ease your fear. At the same time, he's revealing his own heart, which is, I'm unresolved. How interesting it is that statement can be read in two different ways. And the book of Genesis, the curtain closes right there on that note, almost with an ambiguity. Did Joseph forgive or didn't he forgive? I think an argument could be heard that forgiveness was not proffered fully, and maybe because it wasn't requested for in the proper way. How interesting it is that we turn the page and we're writing the book of Exodus, and within one paragraph, we're into the slavery. God just brings us right into it. Slavery. And you go through Jewish history, and Jewish history is really, in a nutshell, is really a study of the family trying to get back together. Going to Eretz Yisrael, there's going to be eventually a split of the 10 tribes. We're going to come back. We're going to be exiled. We're going to come back. There's going to be sinas chinam, baseless hatred between brothers. Another exile. The exile we're in right now, 2,000 years, still haven't resolved it, because brothers can't get along fully. As the morale tells us, the Beit HaMikdash is the house of holiness. To live in a house, you have to have a family. To be a family. As long as we're not fully a family, we don't deserve a house. Brothers not getting along is the theme that so pervades so much of Jewish thought, Jewish history. Maybe what the Torah is trying to indicate to us is the source of that is right here. That there could have been a full reconciliation. And maybe we could just, we perhaps could just try to hypothesize what Jewish history might have looked like had the brothers fully resolved their difference with the proper request for forgiveness. Maybe it would be a different exile, or maybe there would never be need for an exile. Again, this is an ambiguous note that the Torah ends on. But I think as a practical take-home lesson, we should understand how important it is to ask for forgiveness in the right way. Understand there is a power in it. It does work. And the reason it works is because when we do regret what we did and we tell the person we regret and we acknowledge the harm that we caused, the other can look at us and say, I see a different person. I'm willing to go forward with that new person. Let's start again because you've changed. And there's a truth in that. We are constantly changing. And maybe that's the take-home, a little bit of take-home lesson as we leave the book of Genesis and we start going forward now in the next few weeks in the book of Exodus and the book of Shmos. I look forward to continuing this journey next week with everybody. And I wish everybody just a continued wonderful week and, of course, a Shabbat Shalom.